This is all boiling down to an antitrust complaint, and what you're really looking at is two main parts. The one thing that the FTC has said that Facebook is doing wrong is first they said that they were stifling competition by acquiring, in particular, Instagram in 2012 and WhatsApp in 2014. Now you'll remember these deals were approved by the FTC, but they're saying that's really the two things that they did to really get rid of competition. Mark Zuckerberg did actually refer to this in earlier emails, so it's kind of hard to argue against that, though Facebook is at this time. The second thing is a little bit more complicated, and it has to do with something called an API. This is a platform that allows third parties to access Facebook's data and use its platform, but they're saying that Facebook is limiting access to third parties to this information if they're working with rival competitors in the social media space, or they're going to use that data to develop their own rival businesses. So these are the two things that the FTC is saying is really leading to no competition in the marketplace.
Michelle, how much does Facebook actually dominate the online industry, especially considering this is largely at the heart of a lot of these complaints?
You know what? It's hard to deny that Facebook is one of the leaders when it comes to digital advertising. Last year, the FTC pointed out that they made about $70 billion in revenue. And according to eMarketer, they're still one of the duopoly, the two biggest earners of digital revenue. They're earning about a quarter of the total digital advertising spend in the world. In fact, despite the fact that we're seeing declines in advertising because of the pandemic, they're still expected to grow 20% this year, their ad revenue, and they'll grow an additional 17% in 2021. That's on top of the boycotts because of the Black Lives Matter movement and other angry people moving off the platform because they don't agree with Facebook's moderation practices. So it's hard to deny that Facebook isn't a giant in their industry, and they're continuing to do so despite other companies showing up in the space.
Michelle, accusations against Facebook are one thing. Obviously, the company has to have some form of robust response. So what is Facebook saying in its own defense in light of all this?
Well, Facebook brings up some interesting points. We got a statement from their legal counsel, and what they're really arguing is the fact that people independently choose to use Facebook. They're not forced to use it, and they're using it because it is the best in the market. And the reason why it's the best in the market is because competition in the space has forced them to innovate. On top of that, we have other things like the fact that they do allow small businesses to use their platform for free, so they aren't stifling all the competition out there. And overall, and arching above this, is the fact that if the FTC goes back on their decision to allow Instagram and makes them spin off Instagram and WhatsApp, it could actually send a precedent to a lot of smaller companies, especially those in the tech space, that are arguing that, hey, I'm going to buy a small company, invest in it, and if it grows, then the FTC is going to make me get rid of it. So why am I investing in innovating it at this time? Let's remember that when Instagram was bought in 2012, it only had 13 employees and about 2% of the total user base it has today. It actually was making no revenue. So it is also true that Facebook points out they did invest quite a bit in Instagram to get it to the level it is today, and there's no way that people could have predicted back then that Instagram was going to be as big as it is today.
Of course, Michelle, to be fair here, accusations are always going to be made. The company is going to have its response. You cover the space so closely. I got to know, do you agree, or do you think, in your point of view, this does set a dangerous precedent to break up a company like Facebook?
I can see both sides, to be honest. I can see the FTC's point that there were statements made by Mark Zuckerberg that he did see Instagram as a threat even back in as far as 2008, and he did want to acquire the company in order to stifle competition. Instagram's former CEO, Kevin Systrom, had also argued to the company that they weren't promoting Instagram early on because they wanted to continue to grow Facebook. So there are things that lead to the fact that Facebook did acquire companies in order to stop their growth. But I do also see Facebook's point that they did invest quite a bit in Instagram. It isn't the same platform it was in 2012. So you can see both arguments. Overall, I don't think they're going to be broken up. And Morningstar agrees with me. They think that overall they're not going to have to be broken up, though this could have future implications for other tech companies trying to acquire businesses.